After the disappearance of the illusory simulated study living room, only a misty and dark color remains, like swirling smoke continuously extending to an unknown end. There are no colors or shapes here, it's just Suha's cognition of the pinball space portraying scenes. Here, countless information from the distant past until now is stored, serving as the fundamental basis for Suha's survival. In Suha's understanding, all knowledge is arranged hierarchically and chronologically. The appearance of the pinball space should resemble a long dragon-like whirl, where the dragon's head represents the present and the unknown length of the dragon's body and tail symbolize the past. With the establishment of Little Light, Suha gains more and more knowledge and information, noticing his original information starting to interact with the information recorded within the pinball space. These once unrelated pieces of information become a part of his consciousness, enlarging his original consciousness information. It's as if Suha's consciousness gradually, in an organized and logical manner, engulfs the information within the pinball space to enhance himself. This fusion process between Suha's original information and the pinball space is largely driven by his selective integration of useful information, following his own thinking rules to become part of his core being. Otherwise, Suha would inevitably collapse under the immense flow of information. Comparing Suha's conscious information to a drop of ink gradually assimilating water, dropping that ink into a river, if the ink drop can maintain its cohesion and independence, eventually, it will assimilate the entire river into ink. However, if the ink disperses the moment it meets the rushing river, it becomes completely useless. Clearly, to maintain his self, Suha needs to consolidate his consciousness and then absorb a vast amount of knowledge to strengthen himself. Regular meditation can maintain this process well. Within the pinball space, Suha's consolidated consciousness gradually fades away, his thoughts freely flowing within the space. Wherever his thoughts go, his core being follows. This is an incredibly mystical experience within the pinball space. He seems to be everywhere yet unable to comprehend the entirety of this place. He feels like he's gone to a very distant place, while also continuously revolving in the same spot. As for Little Light's existence, it's a colossal information processing center he constructed, using a part of his consciousness as its core in conjunction with the space's characteristics. Seemingly two independent entities, fundamentally they're inseparable. Therefore, Suha's consciousness, no matter where it travels within the pinball space, can swiftly pinpoint Little Light. Moreover, the most astonishing thing is the inexplicable connection between Suha's conscious information and the distant, unknown location of a body resembling a vermilion-gored person. This link provides a foundation for Suha's conscious information, enabling his thinking. His primary consciousness can effortlessly switch between the body and the pinball space, facing no obstacles. While his primary consciousness is in the body, he's no different from an ordinary person. He speculates that it's akin to a state similar to quantum entanglement. At a certain moment, his conscious information and body adjusted to the same frequency, creating this inexplicable connection. Suha's shadow gradually consolidates within the pinball space, murmuring, "Isn't this similar to projection?" After Suha evolved into the Prophet, he faced the question, why did his consciousness abilities continue to improve after evolving into the Prophet? Over the years, through exploring the pinball space, Suha gradually uncovered its rules. The Prophet possessed a powerful brain, granting Suha greater information processing abilities. This ability's feedback resulted in Suha's conscious information gaining more control. For instance, Suha's meditative contemplation could be likened to a logical method for plundering information, while the brain served as the storage repository. This logical method enabled Suha to systematically plunder matching information to enhance himself. However, limited by the insufficient capacity of the storage repository, Suha couldn't plunder more information, thus restricting his consciousness abilities. Ultimately, for thinking, he had to rely on a powerful brain. Likewise, to enhance consciousness abilities, the same applied. If it weren't for evolving into the Prophet, Suha wouldn't have realized why his consciousness abilities couldn't grow. He used to hope for some powerful techniques to achieve a breakthrough. But the fact was, the inability to improve had nothing to do with these techniques. Essentially, the brain wasn't functioning properly. Suha was immensely grateful for obtaining the Prophet genius gene, ensuring intelligence improvements regardless of where he reincarnated in the future. But the Prophet must have its limitations. When my consciousness abilities reach a certain level, they will inevitably stagnate again. Soon, Suha noticed the issue. To achieve unlimited enhancement, he'd need an infinitely powerful brain. Was this realistic? Shaking his head, Suha found it impractical. Even if his whole body were a brain, it couldn't sustain him much farther. He clenched his fist slowly, realizing, I've acquired enough power for self-preservation. The current issue isn't about physical strength, but my mental consciousness abilities. Then where should I learn knowledge to continually enhance my mental power without limitations imposed by the brain? Perhaps when this world's body dies, and he wanders into other worlds, he might gain something, maybe in the next world. I must cherish every reincarnation opportunity and gain knowledge. Once missed, it's truly lost. All our latest novels on novelbun.com. Reflecting on missed opportunities in previous reincarnations within martial arts, magical, and Shinxia worlds, he felt some regret. If he could cultivate the so-called divine consciousness like the legends of the immortal sects, perhaps everything would fall into place. What is divine consciousness, and how does one cultivate it? Suha didn't know the mystery behind it. As long as I stick to my original intentions and keep learning, there's always a way to achieve it. After years of meditative contemplation, Suha's consciousness abilities experienced significant improvement alongside his academic knowledge. In these years, his absorption speed of knowledge from various scientific fields has been terrifying, allowing Suha to personally experience the vast gap between true geniuses and pseudo-geniuses. Originally in the field of mathematics, he estimated it would take a dozen or even 20 years to thoroughly understand and absorb it as his own. However, after evolving into the Prophet, in just over a year, he devoured all the recorded books. This efficiency can't simply be described as a mere several times improvement. The question remains if other prophets among the vermilion-gored people can achieve such a level. Suha's estimation leans towards a negative answer due to the relationship with the pinball space, where he practically unlocked the entire thinking potential of the Prophet. It's evidently not a capacity other prophets possess. Their distinctive qualities merely manifest as heightened intelligence, coupled with special abilities like acquisition and analysis. After consuming all scientific knowledge these years, Suha formed new ideas about little light. Yes, he aimed to upgrade little light from top to bottom. The current little light was somewhat falling behind his needs. With a wave of his hand, the surroundings reverted to the appearance of a laboratory. Regardless of little light's intelligence level, his simple functionality can no longer keep up with Suha's pace. Currently, little light's two most important functions for Suha are information retrieval, organization, simulation, and bloodline microoperation. The first function allows Suha to freely access all recorded information for comparison, while the second function is crucial for Suha's future completion of genetic modification. The remaining functions, big or small, are not as crucial for Suha. They are good to have, but their absence does not affect his learning and research. However, these two crucial functions of little light aren't as powerful as Suha desires. For instance, information retrieval, organization, simulation requires Suha to personally command each step, making the process notably cumbersome. If Suha doesn't give instructions, little light remains inactive. Similarly, bloodline microoperation demands lengthy observation and contemplation of long strings of symbols, consuming time and energy. By day's end, not much genetic modification fluid has been successfully cultivated. Therefore, Suha's upgrade this time will thoroughly solve these two issues. Furthermore, according to his concept, he intends to add new functions to little light. The most important aspect is building the underlying framework of the system. Once the primary framework functions are established, subsequent modifications within this framework become much simpler. Suha's idea is very straightforward. The foundational framework of the new system, Universe Light 3.0, consists of 5 sections. The first section, Information Search Log section, part of Dynamic Knowledge Management. The second section, System Tool section, an area for module component calls and settings. The third section, Function section, an area for adding various new functions. The fourth section, Intelligent Feedback section, enabling intelligent learning feedback. The fifth section, Expanded Permission section, is frequently used functions such as radar, bloodline microoperation, genetic simulation, transcription system, real-time scene simulation, model design, and others are all included in the third function section, basically unchanged from the original. However, what Suha wants to focus on is the fourth intelligent feedback section, requiring little light to have stronger real-time feedback and learning feedback capabilities. The updates at novel/being calm. In simple terms, little light should continuously learn from Suha's daily behaviors, reaching a point where it can automatically judge Suha's desires without needing too many commands from him. At the start, there will inevitably be numerous errors, but with continual adjustments and refinement, the system will inevitably reach an ideal state. For instance, if Suha merely commands analyze XXX gene segment, little light will immediately autonomously extract the corresponding genes, performing a series of functions like analysis, classification, summary, annotation, matching, and then arrange them based on Suha's daily search weight. Similarly, if Suha simply commands configure X gene modification fluid, little light without Suha staring at the symbols for a long time will autonomously emit the corresponding signal waves according to Suha's needs, completing the configuration of the genetic modification fluid. Moreover, tasks such as transforming into Mingzi, the armor design, high-speed flight form, silent flight form, ground combat form, as well as the depiction of runic fields and so on, little light can autonomously carry out the intermediate complex operations. However, for Suha to complete the construction of the intelligence section is not a simple matter, but fortunately he already has the construction strategy and implementation technology. What's lacking is a significant time investment. But now Suha is not short of time. With no worries about food, clothing, and shelter, he does whatever he wants, lives however he wishes. Completely stress-free. Time passes, and while Suha is completely engrossed in building the Universe Light 3.0 version, Yashin approaches him. Knowing Suha's temperament, Yashin gets straight to the point. Boss Wei, there's a small issue with the experimental beast zone. Considering the beast zone is a new concept, encountering problems is entirely normal. Suha calmly asks, what's the issue? Yashin explains, we placed 2 level 7 beasts inside. One of them, the violent moon sequences rampage bear, seems to be feeling too lonely or perhaps going into heat. Within a month it wandered off in search of a female bear, incidentally disturbing other female beasts in the process. Suha twitches at the corners of his mouth. He hadn't considered finding a companion for that bear initially, never expecting this turn of events. After a moment of thought, Suha suggests then, let's clean up the rampaging bear. Additionally, let's clear the other bright beast. In the future, no level 7 beasts will be placed in the beast zone. The direct entry of advanced level 7 beasts will be controlled by the Temple Forest Union. As for the problem of companions for other high-level beasts, I'll arrange several female beasts to resolve it later. Yashin doesn't question Suha's decision and immediately nods in agreement, adding Boss Wei, according to our tracking records, level 5 and below beasts, due to their relatively large numbers, have all reproduced the next generation of various beasts. The new generation successfully inherits the abilities of their predecessors, aligning closely with your envisioned plan. According to the Temple Forest Union's estimate, in 3 years, the Beast Zone will have developed to a certain extent, allowing the first graduating class of mutant students to enter the Beast Zone for trials and achieve their first evolution. Boss Wei, everything is progressing according to the anticipated direction. Suha remarks that's inevitable. The direction events take ultimately depends on your direction. As long as you persistently move forward, what you foresee will undoubtedly become reality. Yashin sighs. Boss Wei, I used to believe that changing this world was incredibly difficult. Even if I invested my entire life's time and energy, I might not be able to change even a bit. But in just a short 20 years, we've reached this point. It feels as if I can already see the arrival of a new world. Sometimes I even doubt if all of this is just a dream. Suha chuckles lightly. There are many more incredible things than this. Once you see them often enough, you become accustomed. That being said, this world harbors countless unimaginable things far surpassing imagination. It's not the world's oddity, but our limited understanding and impoverished knowledge that make everything seem novel. For me, the direction in which this world changes is foreseeable and controllable. Whenever I want, I can steer this world in a different direction and control the theme of the world. For example, an era without mutant technology, an era of mutants and technology coexistence, an era of mutants fighting without technology. There are many choices. It's not about good or bad. It depends on my mood. Yashin listens in disbelief. Boss Wei claiming the ability to control the development of this era is undoubtedly beyond his understanding. Suhao asks Yeshan, do you know what I rely on to control the direction of this world? Yeshan shakes his head, then curiously asks, what is it? Is it an unparalleled power? Suhao responds, power is just one factor, it can be said to be and not to be. What I rely on is knowledge. Although Yeshan doesn't fully comprehend, he still finds it extremely impressive. Having followed Bossway for many years, he has gained some understanding. He says knowledge. Suhao adds, and the essence of what you perceive as power is also knowledge. One could say that by mastering enough knowledge you possess enough power. Yeshan silently nods. This must be why Bossway values the academy so much. It imparts both knowledge and power. After chatting for a while, Yeshan said, oh, by the way, Bossway, there's one more thing. Several joint envoy teams we sent out earlier have returned from major cities in the last few days, and the feedback isn't very good. Only the people from Anliang City are willing to come for discussions with a maximum of 5th-level representatives of mutants. The reason is that the previous evil child slaughtered all the mutants in Anliang City, and no 7th-level mutants have dared to settle in Anliang these years. Anliang is probably afraid of contradicting our intentions and then having trouble with us, so they just sent someone over as a formality. As for the other major cities, we can barely find anyone worth talking to, and they've basically been sent back. They utterly disdain our statements and essentially consider the New Century Project a joke. Suhao asked, so, what does our temple forest plan to do? Yeshan replied, let's not rush. We can continue attempting to communicate with the remaining cities. Although the outbreak of war is inevitable in the end, we currently don't plan to conflict with other cities. It's perfect, now we can take advantage of Anliang City's vulnerability, control both Anliang City and the surrounding cities, and use Anliang as a test site to build a super large mutant zone, nurturing a new generation of talents. Step by step, steadily and eventually we'll gradually absorb all the other cities. By that time we'll have enough manpower to take over the management of other major cities smoothly and initiate reform. Bossway, what do you think? Suhao nodded and said, just follow your plan. Yeshan added, with your approval, I'm relieved. However, the temple forest is still concerned that if we become too strong, the 7th-level mutants from the other 5 cities might unite and challenge us. With our current strength, we definitely won't be able to resist. Suhao calmly remarked, no problem. If those people indeed unite to resist, it would be even easier. We can clean them all up at once. Do whatever you need to do without too much concern. Upon hearing this, Yeshan instantly felt relieved. He found Bossway today precisely because of these concerns. Since Bossway said so in critical moments, Bossway would take action, giving Yeshan a sense of assurance. Yeshan said, Bossway, I'll take 3 little ones back to Huxiang City in a couple of days to handle some matters, and I'll be back soon. Explore up-to-date stories at no/vel//beingcom. Suhao smiled and said, your small matters don't need to be exposed, you don't have to tell me. If you want to go back, go back. Yeshan scratched his head, smiling awkwardly. After having a wife, this was how things went. Meanwhile, Suhao gazed absent-mindedly at the sky. In the face of the overwhelming trend, any resistance and obstruction would be crushed into pieces. So what is the overall trend for the entire universe? On a smaller scale, as he roamed through the pinball space and then reincarnated in a certain world by chance, what was the overall trend for him? If he could control the trend of the people of Juhua, did that imply there was something he didn't understand, controlling the overall trend of the universe? Suhao fell into deep thought. He had never before delved into these questions as deeply as he was doing now. Just now his mind became clearer, contemplating questions more comprehensively and deeply, involuntarily focusing on things he had previously ignored. As night fell, Suhao gathered his thoughts and returned to the laboratory. Instead of daydreaming about irrelevant matters, he decided to diligently work on building his Universal Light 3.0. Re-entering the pinball space, he opened the progress list, contentedly stating 2/3 of the progress, soon it will be completed. The little light Suhao was constructing nearly demolished the previous structure, redesigning it from scratch. Thanks to his considerably comprehensive knowledge base, the Universal Light 3.0 version undoubtedly possessed powerful functionalities. Time passed, 3 years fleeting by. Suhao, now 30, had just exceeded the age he was before entering the pinball space. How many years had passed now? Suhao no longer bothered to count. Universal Light 3.0 had been completed over 2 years ago, and in that time, the new little light had undergone significant improvement through learning simulations, far beyond what the 2.5 version could compare to. Suhao's consciousness entered the pinball space, and the neutral voice of the little light immediately sounded, welcome back, esteemed Mr. Suhao. According to the log, I'll report the following information for you. 1. All extraordinary fragments of mutant genes have been sorted and recorded without emissions available for retrieval according to your needs. 2. Currently listed runes have all been successfully expressed within organisms using genes, such as level 2 lightning, level 2 fire ring, level 2 fire dragon. Adjustments have been made, enabling successful guidance within organisms without causing self-harm. 3. The compound rune of sense and level 2 lightning, level 2 fire dragon, level 2 barrier, level 2 toughness has been completed, reaching 99.9% of independent rune performance, available for upgrade at any time. 4. Mutant beast zone ecological simulation results, lacking highly energized edible plants, new species have been automatically generated, available for review. 5. Simulation of the god gene concluded with a 10% success rate. Reasons for failure are unknown and added to the automatic modification simulation task. The next simulation is estimated to end in 60 hours. 6. Your body is in excellent health with no abnormalities. Compared to yesterday, the overall strength increased by 0.0001%. Specific details can be viewed. Respected Mr. Suhao, the little light has completed the report for you. Next, I will arrange the pinball space exploration experiment platform for you. As the little light finished speaking, the scene in the pinball space transitioned into a laboratory, with a large table in the middle, displaying multiple small room models. Inside these small room models, several small round mice could be seen lying still, not moving. Why were there small round mice in the pinball space? This originated from a bold speculation by Su Hao. This speculation arose after discovering the ability of saturated blood gas to record object information. Before upgrading the little light, Su Hao had never dared to make such attempts. And Su Hao's urgent need to upgrade the little light also stemmed from this speculation. This speculation questions whether it's possible to record the consciousness information of other organisms within the pinball space. Certainly. Here's the translation. Suddenly struck by this idea, Su Hao was astonished by his own crazy thoughts. For this, he remained dazed for quite some time. There are two possibilities here. The first possibility is that it cannot be recorded. The issue is, if it's impossible to record the consciousness information of other organisms, then how does the pinball space record Su Hao's consciousness information? Does Su Hao have something special about him? The second possibility is that it can be recorded. The subsequent question then arises, if it's possible to record the consciousness information of other organisms, can other organisms, like him, freely switch their consciousness between the pinball space and their bodies? On a larger scale, is it possible for recorded organisms to, like Su Hao, obtain a certain form of eternity? For Su Hao, this is indeed a crazy speculation. Regardless of whether the ultimate result can successfully record the information of other organisms, it would provide Su Hao with unimaginable information. Now it's reached the testing phase. And those grid-by-grid small rooms represent the confinement cells Su Hao designed, locking in the recorded consciousness and sealing it with permission functions. What would it mean for Su Hao if he could successfully record consciousness information? Is it akin to the main god space imagined, capable of summoning and nurturing countless warriors? Or akin to the Paradise game, traversing through various worlds? The operational space in this is beyond imagination. Can the pinball space really record the consciousness of others? After this question arose, it occasionally flashed through Su Hao's mind. The fundamental reason was that Su Hao felt a threat, a real, life-threatening threat. Previously, he thought of himself as the most special one. Inside the pinball space, only his consciousness information existed, making the pinball space naturally his personal property. Relying on the characteristics of the pinball space, obtaining eternity seemed natural. However, when this doubt arose, Su Hao started feeling a bit uneasy. The future is long, unlimitedly long. If in the future other consciousness information unintentionally enters the pinball space, what should he do? In other words, what would happen? Is it possible that, just as he devoured the information within the pinball space, the newly recorded consciousness information might inadvertently devour him? The universe is vast, with countless powerful beings. He couldn't be sure that he could definitely defeat any recorded consciousness information. He only needed one powerful being to appear, and then he would truly be finished. And this is also the reason why Su Hao made the determined decision to rebuild the light of the universe. The fifth section, the expansion permission section, was established for this purpose. The goal is singular, to set permissions for consciousness information that is intentionally or unintentionally recorded into the pinball space. And now it's reached the testing phase. Permissions are divided into several levels. Level 1, even if consciousness information is recorded, one cannot be aware of the space's existence, equivalent to consciousness being locked. Level 2, consciousness can enter the pinball space to a limited extent, but it's confined within the small black room, unable to perceive more information or access any functions. Level 3, consciousness can to a limited extent enter the small black room, and can moderately alter the virtual environment of the small black room. And so on, each level opening up a few minor permissions. This is used to test the effectiveness of the small black room, and to fix any possible loopholes within it. But the premise is that all of this must happen within the small black room. Su Hao absolutely doesn't allow anyone to share the pinball space with him. Yes, it involves a fundamental issue. Su Hao is indeed so petty. So the question arises, how can one confine a consciousness information within the small black room and ensure that this consciousness information can't escape from the small black room? After thinking for a while, Su Hao came up with a reliable answer. The first method involves constructing a mental maze, restricting the extension of thought, making it continuously loop in place, but it's difficult to control the permissions. The second method utilizes the immense computational function of the little light to establish a powerful information access rule set, using the space's positive and negative characteristics, building a permit and reject bidirectional access mechanism for the small black room, then assigning all permissions within the small black room as reject access. This thoroughly intercepts the information inside the small black room within the defined scope. However, for Su Hao, this is still not secure, so such a small black room must be layered upon itself, endlessly nested, with each layer executing different rules to enforce the command of refusal to access. If some consciousness information unintentionally breaks through the innermost layer of the small black room, there's another layer waiting for it. In the 10th layer, an information erasure mechanism is set. If consciousness information continuously breaches more than 10 layers, the segment of information will be permanently deleted automatically. This process loops. The most crucial thing is that Su Hao wants to construct such a small black room with at least 10,000 layers, the more secure the better. Regarding erasing information, Su Hao tried it. Using a large amount of information and intense impact, it can disperse and destroy the information structure of a rule, forming a chaotic flow of information to achieve erasure. Su Hao looked at the small round mouse quietly staying in the small black room and murmured, the current small black room is in an absolutely prohibited state of information retrieval. Even if the weak consciousness of the small round mouse can switch to the pinball space, perception is a complete darkness and stillness, like blocking all perception. Su Hao was very satisfied with his masterpiece, saying, in other words, even if the small round mouse enters the pinball space, it won't be aware that it has entered. It will just think it closed its eyes and took a nap. Next, Su Hao will proceed with the second round of testing. That is to grant second-level permissions to one of the small round mice, making it aware that it has entered a strange enclosed space. Su Hao instructed Little Light, saying, Little Light, grant second-level permissions to subject G3. Little light received. Second level permissions granted, attempting to forcibly summon the consciousness of subject G3 summon successful, subject G3 has entered the small black room. Next, we'll construct the scene of the small black room and test subject G3's response collecting data. Find the new stories on node/elbeam.com. Little light quickly responded, not needing much direction from Suhao, and fulfilled all of Suha's requirements one by one. Suhao praised indeed, the experience after the upgrade is completely different. In Suha's field of vision, the small round mouse marked as G3 immediately started to move. Clearly, a moment ago, it was playing with its companions in the cage, and the next moment, it inexplicably found itself in this dim and narrow place, causing extreme panic. Squeak, squeak. It helplessly turned around, then emitted a frightened cry, seemingly calling for its companions. After running in the narrow small black room for a while, it stopped in fear, huddling in a corner of the small black room. Suha's mood, however, was very complicated. Until this moment, the answer was already very clear. As long as the corresponding method is found, the consciousness information of any life can be recorded into the pinball space. He Suhao is indeed not the special one, just fortunate to be the first. He truly is just an ordinary person. This made Suhao both fearful and relieved. The fear lies in the fact that he is not as invincible and immortal as previously imagined. He still might face complete death. The point of relief lies in the fact that he has confirmed that there is no higher controlling entity above him, specially designing this pinball space for him. He, Suhao, truly entered the pinball space inadvertently. The logic behind this is simple. If Suhao were special, it would inevitably hide unimaginable secrets, implying manipulation, which is terrifying to think about. If Suhao isn't special, it means all of this is a coincidence. Perhaps it's the first coincidence ever to occur in the history of the universe. The probability of Suha's consciousness information accidentally colliding into the pinball space is incredibly small, almost close to impossible. This event, compared to Suhao actively recording the consciousness of the small round mouse and integrating it into the pinball space, is fundamentally different. However, with one instance of this kind of coincidence, there could be a second time, and that's what makes Suhao most nervous. Perhaps in the distant future, while I'm unaware, the pinball space might be invaded by other consciousnesses. I have to be cautious. For the first time, Suhao felt what intense crisis meant. Suhao resolved inwardly first, I must find every possible way to become stronger as soon as possible, like a divine saint from myths, indestructible, guarding my own achievements. He really didn't want all the knowledge accumulated through countless hardships across who knows how many worlds to ultimately become someone else's stepping stone. If that were the case, just the thought of it feels somewhat sad. Thinking this, Suhao continued giving instructions. Little light, granted the third level permissions. Third level permissions have been granted. Just after waiting for a moment, the small black room where the small round mouse stayed underwent a change, leaving Suhao completely dumbfounded. Never expected it to be such a small round mouse. The small black room where the round mouse was first transformed into a cage-like structure, crooked but still recognizable. But soon, a new change occurred as the cage transformed into a cave-like space, from which emerged another graceful and elegant female round mouse. Soon after, the two round mice staged a passionate battle. Suhao said, Little light, revoke level 3 access. Level 3 access revoked. Everything the small round mouse had imagined disappeared without a trace, leaving it standing in place, looking around the emptiness, appearing very bewildered. Then Suhao proceeded with his next attempt, killing the small round mouse's body to observe the changes in the consciousness information recorded in the pinball space. Suhao exited the pinball space, grabbed the G3 small round mouse, held its neck with one hand and gently slid the other hand across its back. With a light click sound, the small round mouse instantly perished. After confirming the death of the small round mouse, Suhao entered the pinball space to observe the status of G3 inside the small black room. Indeed, once the brain activity ceases, the consciousness information loses its foundation and stops thinking. Following this, Suhao focused on another small round mouse with the designation G4. Little light to destroy the consciousness of the G4 test subject. The consciousness of the G4 test subject has been destroyed and deleted. Once again, Suhao exited the pinball space to observe the current state of the G4 small round mouse locked in the cage. Because he needed to confirm one thing, whether the consciousness information recorded in the pinball space, once destroyed, would affect the original being. According to Suha's speculation, it shouldn't have any impact. Once information is recorded, it's like making a duplicate and saving it in the pinball space. What connection could deleting the duplicate have with the original? However, the results surprised Suhao. He discovered that after the consciousness information of the G4 round mouse recorded in the pinball space was deleted, the mouse no longer moved. Upon inspection, the body remained vital, but the brain ceased functioning, turning the mouse into a vegetative-like state. Can this happen? Such results greatly astonished Suhao. It seems the consciousness information in the pinball space and the original being have a connection beyond my comprehension. It's far more complex than merely duplicating information. In other words, if Suha's consciousness information recorded in the pinball space is destroyed, then he will also die, even if he possesses a body. Conversely, if the body is destroyed but the consciousness information remains stored in the pinball space, then he still has a chance to awaken again. The third step of the upcoming experiment is to transfer G3's consciousness information into the body of G4. Suhao merged the two small black rooms together and placed G3's consciousness information in G4's original position. No good. Suhao, who had waited for a long time without any response, frowned. Indeed, establishing a connection isn't that simple. How can G3's consciousness be successfully transferred into G4's body? Suhao, pondering and conducting corresponding experiments, found that all attempts failed. It seemed impossible to transfer a consciousness into a specific body. However, Suha firmly believed that there must be a method to achieve this. There must be some crucial missing condition. What could it be? Over the following days, despite continuous attempts, Suha failed to come up with a solution as the body of the G4 round mouse completely died. 3 days later, Suha exited the pinball space, coldly pulled out the thoroughly chilled G4 round mouse, and casually threw it into the experimental trash can. But just as the round mouse made a precise arc and hit the trash can, a bright light flashed in Suha's mind. Suha suddenly opened his eyes. It's space. Suha discovered the key aspect. The location of the pinball space fundamentally isn't within this world but exists in the unknown depths of the universe. The pinball space can acquire information through Suha's human body, but the information inside the pinball space cannot traverse the countless light years to reach this world. Does this mean it's unrealistic to transfer G3's consciousness into another round mouse's body? No, quite the opposite. As long as I find the problem, solving it isn't far away. Delighted at grasping the crucial point, Suha immediately returned to the pinball space and started the little light functions section, inputting a new information export function. Then he constructed the software framework for the information export function, continuously refining it. Suha turned into a coder again. After another half-month, the initial version of the information export function created by Suha successfully ran. The operational principle involved packaging G3's consciousness information, pinpointing it through contact with Suha's body, and then transmitting it. Suha first erased G5's consciousness, then, holding G5's body, saturated with blood and life, at the moment of recording the information into the pinball space, the package containing G3's consciousness was sent into G5's body. After the process, Suha placed the G5 round mouse in front of him, waiting patiently. Roughly after a dozen minutes, the round mouse moved its limbs, then opened its eyes and slowly got up. G3, the round mouse, seemed as if it had just awakened from a nap, but the enchanting female round mouse was gone, the cramped black room vanished, replaced by a massive experimental platform, squeak. Yet, it had no idea that it had even changed its body. Only at that moment did Suha finally heave a long sigh of relief. It worked. This success held immense significance for him. If the pinball space is used adeptly, the convenience it brings to his experimental studies is unimaginable. Suha reached out, seized the revived G3, gently snapped its life away, and its shallow thoughts once again fell into suspension. He entered the pinball space and obliterated G3's consciousness information. After completing all this, Suha exited the pinball space, unusually pushed open the laboratory door, and leisurely strolled to the yard. A reclining chair gradually emerged on the ground, and Suha comfortably lay on it, gazing at the stars in the sky. When will I be able to freely roam the universe? 2 months later, Suha catalogued the research results and incorporated the newly developed functionalities into Little Light's functions section. They included information export, information deletion, small black room, thought maze, permission management, and others. What Suha valued the most were the small black room and the thought maze because these two functions ensured Suha's safety. If any unexpected consciousness information entered the pinball space, Little Light instantly captured and discerned it, subsequently trapping it in the small black room, gradually extracting certain information, then erasing it without a trace. If the small black room couldn't detain the intruder, the thought maze entrapped their thoughts in an infinite loop. But what if the thought maze also failed? Follow the latest novels on no/velbin.com. Just the thought made Suha extremely uncomfortable. No, I must obtain greater power at least to have the ability to resist in the worst scenarios. Regarding the worst-case scenarios, Suha harbored no sense of luck. Probabilities are mysterious. They're fundamentally incomprehensible. Currently, what Suha urgently needed was not physical strength but mental strength. His physical strength had already far surpassed his mental capacity. Suha couldn't help but think about the legendary concept of the god in the Juhua people. I wonder if the legendary god can help me break through the restraints of mental strength. Should I attempt evolving into a god using the genetic modification fluid? However, with only a 10% success rate, it was exceedingly risky. In the end, Suha couldn't muster the determination to evolve into a god. The probability was too low. Let Little Light test coordination on its own. I'll try when the success rate reaches 99%. Having made up his mind, Suha temporarily set aside the idea of evolving into a god. With the current free time available, he could explore the use of runes, develop more functionalities, and resume researching the talented race that he had previously abandoned, searching for ways to pass down complete runes. What he lacked the least at present was time. It's quite a thrilling scenario.